Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Azdik Rainsan Kamil, and today I'm going to talk about the end of the greatest conflict. In April 30, 1945, the Third Reich has fallen, and the Red Army is already taken over Berlin. Artillery and tank is already bombarded the Führer bunker. Adolf Hitler, known that he just about to lose the war to the Soviet. He thought if German people fought harder, he can win the war. Hitler has lost the war. His general betrayed him, and his people has left him alone in the war. Lieutenant Howard Bauer, his trusted staff, told Hitler to escape from Berlin. But Hitler refused his advice. Hitler says the war will end with the fall of Berlin, and will stand or fall with it. The battle for the city is among the final major offensive of the Second World War, and it marked the climatic end of the Nazi Empire, which had contracted as fast as it expanded. In 1945, Berlin had a population about 3 million, down from 4.3 million before the Berlin outbreak began. Before that, it was a lingering threat from the east, the successor state to the nation that had nearly humbled Frederick, that great the state whose people has suffered too much, the USSR. When almost all the biggest infantry fighting in the west against British, USSR making a counterattack from the east of the country. They're launching several air raids to the vital part of Germany, who is commanded by Marshal George Zhukov. General Heinz Guderian, the chief of general staff, and General Galland, head of the military intelligence, already knew this invasion. They said that the Soviet is outnumbered and outgunned the Nazi counterpart. They even know that the invasion will begin in 3 weeks and will begin in Vistula River. And thus, it was argued that since the Ardennes offensive wasn't bearing through, despite what propaganda said, much of their strength should be diverted to the east. However, Hitler remained unconvinced. He believed that the odds could not be stacked against the superior German, and he was validated by his right-hand man, Heinrich Himmler, whose claimed the Soviet offensive little more than a bluff. With his delusion reinforced by his advice, Hitler diverted all troops from Vistula, especially Panzer Group, not to set up the Soviet defenses line but to launch an all device to counterattack the Hungary oil field. The Soviet outplanned and outmaneuvered the Nazi Germany. That caused in the fall of East blockade, and this kept happening until they finally arrived in Berlin and start bombarding the Berlin with aircraft and mortar. In February 1945, the three chief Allied leaders gathered at the resort town Yalta in Crimea to discuss the end of the World War II. Prime Minister Winston Churchill of the United Kingdom, President Franklin Roosevelt of the United States, and Premier Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union saw that war in Europe was close to an end, but that victory in Japan was still uncertain. Their plans mapped out not only the future for post-war Germany and Eastern Europe, but also the term for Soviet military participation in the Pacific theater to defeat Japan and end the war. The Red Army did not repeat offensive in Poland and take Warsaw until 1945. In the meantime, Russian troops made great strides to the north, where they advanced from Baltic states into East Prussia, and momentum gains to the south, where they invaded Romania and other nations allied with Germany. After Soviets seized the Plosti oil field and denied their outposts, the full Hungary German force, King Michael I of Romania, ousted the country pro-Nazi dictator Ion Antonescu and yielded to Russia. Bulgaria switched sides as well, but German troops kept Hungary from leaving the Axis until Budapest fell in February 1945. By then, Russians were poised to deliver the death blow Hitler regime in Berlin and dominate Eastern Europe from decades to come. Stalin had a strong hand to play when he met with US President Franklin Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill at the Crimean city of Yalta in February 1945. Recent advances by the Red Army has positioned the Soviets to occupy Eastern Germany, while American, British, and French troops occupied Western Germany. Separate occupation zones from the forces were drawn up to Yalta, along with post-war plans to divide Berlin, which was situated in the Soviet zone but would be partitioned among the Allied powers. The final battle in the savage struggle between Germany and Russia opened before dawn April 16, 1945, when Soviet artillery along the Oder River unleashed a thunderous bombardment that reverberated 400 miles away from the outskirts of Berlin. Germany had pulled back to avoid that pounding and held firm initially, but could not long withstand onslaught by the first Belarusian front under Marshal Georgy Zhukov. Hailed as the savior of Moscow, was numerically superior forces bourgeoned their way toward Berlin. "They keep coming at us in horde, wave after wave," reported a commander in a depleted German Ninth Army, mauled at Minsk the year before. "My men are fighting until they run out of ammunition," he added. "Then they are wiped out or completely overrun." To the south, Marshal Ivan Konev, commander of the 1st Ukrainian Front, shredded the 4th Panzer Army before pivoting toward Berlin to compete with Zhukov for that prize. "Whoever reached Berlin first," said Stalin, "let him take it." Zhukov had a shorter path to the city and won the race, but Konev's swift advance drew a noose around the capital. On April 26th, 500,000 Soviets launched a furious assault on central Berlin, site of the Reich Chancellery, under which lay Hitler's bomb-proof Führer bunker, and nearby Reichstag, the old German parliament building abandoned after arsonists set in blaze 1933. Hitler seized emergency power. Berlin ditched defenders including Waffen SS units and civilians of the Volkssturm, a people militia made up largely of boys and old men, were outmanned and outgunned. Many fought to the bitter in its subway tunnel and street as the city became funeral pyre of the Reich and the leader who drove it to ruin. On April 30, Adolf Hitler committed suicide while holed in the Führer bunker. His body was cremated by aides. That evening, Soviet troops fought their way in the Reichstag and raised their red flag over the smoldering capital. German forces conceded to defeat on May 2, on May 2nd, 1945. 5 days later, May 7, 1945, Grand Adam Karl Donit left in charge and doomed Reich and its shattered armed force, signed in formal unconditional surrender to the victory of Allies. And that's the end of the greatest conflict. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoy.